this new year.
This December, learn about safety precautions to take into consideration this season.
If you can remember, if you drive on a motorcycle often, to make sure that you have a helmet, it's key to decreasing the severity of the accidents.
If you are passing in a bus from Kakamega to Mombasa, in between, just stand up, stretch your legs, and even when you are seated, keep pumping your feet, keep moving your feet to avoid that long stasis of blood in the veins.
Healthier options for you to maintain a balanced lifestyle amid the holiday hustle.
Eating healthy really doesn't mean that you have to deprive yourself, but we really just have to factor on how to strike a balance. Portion control and moderation are very key. Let us enjoy.
All right, a very good morning and welcome to yet another edition, just the second edition of Morning Cafe this year, 2025. It is the 7th of January. My name is Fred Indemuli. Karibu sana.
My name is Anne Odida. Thank you so much for joining us today on Morning Cafe. Of course, we have so much in store for you today. And just to start us off, Fred, what do we have?
Oh yes, a quick look at the headlines. Ndio hizi hapa ni mingi sana, lakini wacha tuangalie moja moja na tutakuja kuzungumzia hawa. Yes, of course, on State of the Nation we'll be having MPs James Gachagua and Daniel Manduku from Embakasi North and Nyaribari Masaba respectively, alongside Professor Fred Ogola, who's a governance and economics expert. A quick look at the dailies today. Released by whom? That's a big headline on the front page of the Daily Nation this morning. Of course, having to do with the abductions, and now at least 5 of those people who had been reportedly abducted have since been released. That's a Daily Nation. The Star, this being Tuesday, it is a free copy of The Star. It goes with something totally different. Not even a mention of any of the abductions on the front page. Gachagua 2027 poll battle plan. Maswala ya siasa pale.
Education is also there.
On The Standard, queries as captivity horror tales emerge. Same story, issues to do with abductions. That's a Standard. We'll be back to take a look at that in depth. It is the same story on Taifa Leo. Wanasema nini pale?
Nani aliwateka?
Ni swali tu kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa gazeti la Taifa Leo. On the People Daily,
how Ruto state mutes his critics, same question. And People Daily,
and the images of those reportedly abducted and released. I think there's only one who's yet to be released. We'll be talking about that. Yes, across the border to Tanzania, and we start off with The Citizen.
Research-based policies set to drive a blue economy, and Tanzania is focusing on research-based policies as it seeks to realize its blue economy vision and unlock the potential of its abundant marine resources. That story is on page 2 of The Citizen.
And probably something that Kenya can borrow a leaf from. There's so much we can do with our blue economy, especially in areas around the lake basin and the coastal stretch as well.
Right. Something interesting also down here, Tanzania's uphill struggle against noise pollution. Tanzania has in place robust regulations meant to control noise pollution, but the enforcement remains a challenge in cities and other urban areas where concerns are mounting among experts and residents. Special report on page 4.
Wanasema Tanzania jirani ana kelele mingi sana.
Hata sisi tuna kelele jama.
We've not complained about noise pollution. Jirani ana kelele lakini pia yana manufaa kwenye blue economy.
Right.
Right. Let's cross tumalizane na Tanzania kwanza. Ule mwenye alipanga hii magazeti ni kama mwaka mpya bado hujaanza vizuri sana.
Yuko nyumbani.
Gazeti la Mwananchi kule Bongo anasema Makonda Gambo kimewaka Arusha. Makonda amshukia Gambo mbele ya hadhara akimtaka kuhudhuria vikao na kuacha kujitokeza pindi viongozi wakuu wanapofanya ziara. Gambo azungumzia kusuasua kwa ujenzi wa barabara jijini Arusha. Ni masuala tu ya siasa za Tanzania na baadhi ya mawaziri wa serikali. Lipo turufu ya Lissu na Mbowe. Siasa za Chadema, chama cha upinzani kule Tanzania, zaendelea na habari hii imepewa kipaumbele kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa gazeti hili la Mwananchi. Tukitoka Bongo twende Uganda.
Special varsity for teachers starts. Now, something there, 2,000 students to be admitted for first intake next month.
Yes, this is something interesting because in Kenya we only have teachers training colleges, what you call TTCs.
Yes.
Now in Uganda, they've moved a step further. They've set up a university specifically for teachers.
For teachers.
Yes. These guys are very serious when it comes to education. Yeah? When it comes to education in Uganda, I think education should be the backbone of the economy. And you know, for millennials, they understand that a while back, many Kenyans were going to Uganda for their Form 5 and 6.
Is it Makerere?
Yes, O-level education, even for university at Makerere. Yes. So that is...
Ugandans among most reputable Africans. Okay.
But which Uganda do you know apart from Besigye? Among most reputable Africans. Anyway, that's the new vision on the Daily Monitor. They talk about the untouchables. NUP leaders have protested what they termed as double standards in the way Section 160 of the Uganda People's Defence Forces Act of 2005 is applied. They cite cases of regime-leaning artists being allowed to don military-like attire, while NUP supporters are harassed for doing the same. So yes, you know that uniform that Bobi Wine, the military-like kofia that Bobi Wine wears, apparently it's illegal. It's against the People's Defence Forces Act. But if at all you're reliant to NRM, you're allowed to wear them. In Kenya, you know you're not allowed to wear military fatigues. It's actually against the law. I see many people doing it. Ukishikwa kule barabarani, usishtuke. So this is and actually this is on the front page of this daily, the Daily Monitor in Uganda. Big story there. Kuvaa tu nguo zinakaa kama za jeshi.
And it's a coincidence that you're also talking about Makerere University. 13,000 to graduate today from that university.
That's the biggest university in this region, Makerere University. So graduation day there must be big news. And a number of Kenyans must be among the 13,000 people graduating there. So that is something very interesting. And we'll be back to take a look at these headlines later on. For now, let's take a look at the weather situation in some different parts of the country. And we start off in kama imeenda upande ule mwingine, lakini
I think at the moment in Nairobi it's 13 degrees Celsius at the moment. And if you take into account factors such as wind, humidity, of course, and other weather conditions.
You're talking about
Nairobi?
Nairobi, yes.
Yes. The temperatures can feel like 12 degrees Celsius. It's 14 at the moment. Highs of 27 degrees Celsius at around 3 p.m. Precipitation. All right.
No chance of rain in Nairobi today. So usingangane kubeba mwavuli bure, wacha hiyo kitu nyumbani, wewe utembee.
Stay warm though.
In Garissa, though, it's quite hot, 21 degrees Celsius as we speak, but it feels like 24. Highs of 34 degrees Celsius. Now, this is harsh weather.
That's
so
harsh.
If at all you're in areas around Garissa, make sure you hydrate. Kama kuna kofia, vaa kofia. Kama kuna mwavuli, sunscreen.
Right.
Hiyo ndio story
Hiyo ni important. Hapa kuna mvua kweli?
Kuna mvua.
Hakuwezi.
Hakuwezi kuwa na mvua huko. But you can see very little cloud cover, and that only comes towards the later part of the day. Sunny morning. Right, finally, for those few lucky ones who are still on holiday in Malindi.
It's good weather there. 26 degrees Celsius now and highs of 31 degrees Celsius. You're around lunchtime.
Yes.
Saa 7 saa 9 hapo.
a bit of cloud cover throughout the day, so it's comfortable. Hii ni ile weather unatembea tu na vest ama bila unatoa tu shati unatembea tu hivyo umeweka chest nje.
Dera weather.
And bikini weather as well. So yes, for those who are still lucky to be on holiday, yes, you can enjoy that. We'll be back to take a look at the traffic situation. I don't know if we should do it now. My director, okay, I'm told we can do it later at 6:30. We'll be looking at the traffic situation. For now, you have something for us before we come back to the papers?
Yes, of course. Later on, after State of the Nation, Fred, we'll be talking about financial matters, setting financial goals for the year 2025. You know, this is a conversation that we have every year. How are we going to tengeneza pesa yetu? Tutaipanga aje? If you're having 30,000 Kenyan shillings, how are you going to work with that throughout the month? Not throughout the year. I almost say throughout the year.
No, but it's also good to talk about throughout the year because many people are complaining now. Unajua ile January.
Yes.
January has like 67 days.
Actually, they call it in January, you know.
In January.
Yes.
Umekula pesa yote December, January imefika. But now you can do it different this year. You can actually plan your holidays ahead of time. And if you start as early as now, probably that's something that you should consider asking your experts.
Actually, it's the question of the day.
Yes.
What are we doing different in 2025 so that we can start best money practices as early as today? So we are starting today. Grab a book, grab a pen, kuje uchukue notes. So right about now, let's take a look at the quote of the day.
When you have a dream, you've got to grab it and never let go.
Even before we go back to the papers, I can already see traffic is becoming a problem in two different parts of the city. Of course, the Pangani interchange, it's building up and it's about not even 6:15. So yes, it means watu wameanza kurudi town. Guys coming from Kiambu Road and Thika Road, they're coming back to town. But look at this. This is Haile Selassie Avenue inside the CBD. Now you can see the red, and this is around KRA, Central Bank area. It's already deep red. People getting into town. And after that, guys were traveling back to school, back to their workplaces in different areas of the country. Machakos bus station is not looking that busy, but this area around here, where you have those North Rift, Easy Coach, yes, it's very busy. So
and a coach hapo.
Yes.
Right.
So kama ulikuwa umepanga your travel, jipange, because traffic is already building up. Let's come back and take a look at the dailies. Right, and you wanted to start off with the Daily Nation. Go ahead.
Right. Released by whom is the question on the top page of the Daily Nation. And they say after more than 6 months since a spike in enforced disappearances, with at least 6 young Kenyans abducted in December alone, the DCI have little to show in terms of investigation. 5 of them were released yesterday in a seemingly coordinated manner in locations across the country, weeks after Police Chief Douglas Kanja said his officers have nothing to do with the kidnappings. Questions linger on the squads operating with impunity and precision, but who are they?
Oh, yes, those are questions many people are asking. And we rarely get questions on the front page, but yes, that's a question there on the front page of the Daily Nation, released by whom? So many people are wondering, okay, what exactly? At least they've shared photos of those people who were released yesterday: Peter Muteti, Billy Mwangi, Ronnie Kiplagat, Bernard Kavuli, Gideon Kibet, Elias Kibet Bull. And they say that Steve Mbisi, who was abducted on December 17th in Mlolongo, Machakos County, is still missing. So there's still one more person who's yet to be accounted for with regard to this story. So yes, that is the main theme and the main discussion throughout this week. It's there on the front page. But other quick highlights on the front page of the Daily Nation include how corrupt officers pocket needy learners' bursary cash. That story is on page 8, and it's very unfortunate that needy people who are supposed to be benefiting from bursaries are still falling victim to some of this
corrupt leaders,
including
pockets.
MPs. Including MPs. That's the unfortunate thing.
Yeah.
Cash meant for needy learners could be ending up in the pockets of few corrupt officers and MPs who've been fighting to retain bursary in the CDF. You know that discussion about lumping all bursary kitties into one.
Yes.
And they say that it could actually fund free education if you just do that.
Would you say devolving education was also a mistake? You know, some say devolving health was a mistake.
Yes.
Would you say that about education?
At least
as well?
it's only ECD that is a function of the devolved government. Otherwise, education is mainly a function of the central government. Yes. Another interesting story on the front page of the Daily Nation. Dubai firm sues Kenyan gold trader over 63 million shillings deal. Do we have that much gold in Kenya? It's there on the front page. You can read more on page 11. The story on the back page of the Daily Nation. Karua finally given special certificate to represent Besigye. Yes, she had sought to represent Besigye in court in Uganda. So now Kenya leader Martha Karua has been issued with a special practicing certificate to represent the Ugandan opposition leader in his trial that begins today after resubmitting her application. Na kuna masuala ya terrorism pale nyuma. It's a while since we discussed issues to do with terrorism. They say Al-Shabaab leader during Westgate Dusit attacks killed.
And this is in US. The US Africa Command said it initiated the airstrike. Was it in US?
Mohammed Mire was killed in airstrike 260 kilometers from Mogadishu. So he was actually in Somalia. So kudos to the US for that. That's the Daily Nation. We can move on and take a look at the Star. Do you have the Star there?
All right, and the Star is political, just like you mentioned, Fred. Gachagua 2027 poll battle plan. A vengeful Rigathi is reaching out to other groupings. That is in page 4 and 5 of the Star. Former DP out to acquire party in poll battle as president plans new coalition. And we have matters education also there. Exit Christmas fun, enter back to school headache. And we can see faces of very frustrated parents right there. I think it's really a problem that we are last minute people and it's following us even in matters that are serious as this.
But then again, do you really blame the parents? This is January. Sa ile pesa imepatikana ndio unaenda kushop. Si ati walikuwa na hii pesa last year.
Wewe kama mzazi umewaongelelea.
Mimi kama mzazi nimewarepresent. It's true because many accuse Kenyan parents of waiting till the last minute to go shopping. But then again, with the economic times, I'm sure if they had this money sometime in November, they would have done it.
Right.
But then again, alafu unanunulia mtoto nguo uniform in November, anakula Christmas by January, haiwezi toshea.
Right. I know they've also complained about not getting these books that are being required in these schools, especially the ones joining grade 9. So I think that is also part of the headache that they're getting from this back to school rush.
So it's interesting that the Stars decided to go political when everyone else is talking about the issue of abductions and security of Kenyans. But then again, even with that, it's still an interesting story. Gachagua 2027 poll battle plan. So they say that the former DP is looking to acquire a party. As the president plans a new coalition. Remember, these two leaders, the president and his former deputy, were the party leader and deputy party leader of UDA. So where does that leave UDA going forward? Now that the deputy leader has changed and the leader is seeking a new vehicle for his 2027 re-election bid. So that could actually make for a very interesting discussion for those people who are members, or they call themselves life members of the UDA party. You're a life member of a party that may not be in existence in the next 1 year or so. Anyway, remember, this is a Star. Being a Tuesday, it's not for sale, so you can grab yourself a copy of the Star. It also comes with a MyGov pull-out inside. So for all government tenders and job opportunities, you can get that pull-out inside the Star. Remember, the Star, independent, fresh and different. Grab yourself a copy. Moving on swiftly, the Standard.
Same question or same headline as the Daily Nation, and the Standard queries as captivity horror tales emerge. And dam strike and traumatized 5 young Kenyan freed after terrifying nearly 2 weeks in captivity received An emotional reunion with their families, but questions abound over who kidnapped them, where they were locked up, and the whereabouts of one other missing youth, and that is Steve Mbisi.
All right. So that's the main discussion. Yes, so the front pages of the major dailies, it's only the Star that decided to take a different tangent. But yes, this will make for a huge chunk of our reporting and discussions this morning and throughout the day. But quick other highlights, and if I may draw attention to these two stories here on the top strip of the Standard, matters to do with agriculture. So on one hand, why GMO maize is getting closer to dinner tables. Remember, there was a lot of hue and cry when President William Ruto was pushing for the introduction of GMO in Kenya. It's a matter that went to court, but now it would appear mwishowe.
GMO maize to hit your plate soon.
Yes. The other story is why coffee is under threat. So these are not very positive headlines when it comes to education, agricultural matters. Remember yesterday we were talking about Tanzania and how they were saying that Tanzanian farmers have reaped big millions of shillings and US dollars. But in Kenya,
We are not close.
coffee is under threat. Lawmakers green light for Trump. So yesterday the US Vice President, who was a candidate for the Democratic Party for the presidency, what's her name? Kamala Harris, presided over the approval of the election results in the houses of legislation yesterday. United slows the Reds. That's a story on the back page of the Standard. Interesting. Liverpool title charge slowed as Man United show signs of life. This is a story we talked about yesterday. Liverpool remaining 6 points clear of their rivals Arsenal in the English Premier League. Meanwhile, Manchester United, that held them to a draw, is 23 points behind. So Manchester United walifanya kazi nzuri, lakini you need to pull up your socks. So a lot of Manchester United stories on the back page of the Standard today. So wale wengine wenye are not interested in Manchester United, mnaweza angalia hizo stories za huku mbele.
All right, we have also something there, special report. Revealed that drugs lab hidden in remote forest, and this is deep in the heart of a canopy of trees and thickets in Namanga, Kajiado. They say it's a network of structures, as investigators also say is a clandestine lab that manufactures crystal meth, an illegal stimulant.
Wow, you know, crystal meth was actually a big problem in the US a while back. It remains one of the most abused narcotics, but now you can see it's also in Kenya, and it's being manufactured somewhere in Namanga. Interesting.
That is in page 8 and 9 of the Standard. Interesting.
Right, that's the Standard. Let's move on to gazeti la Taifa Leo. Pia ni swali pale kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wanauliza nani aliwateka. Makachero wetu wakuu DCI wasema hawajui. IG Kanja asema hana habari, na rais asisitiza serikali hairuhusu uovu huo. Lakini huku lakini walikuwa watano si wanne, kati ya vijana 6 walioripotiwa kutoweka baada ya kutekwa nyara mwezi jana waachiliwa huru. Swali kuu linasalia, ni nani aliwatendea ukatili huo? Habari kamili kwenye ukurasa wa pili, lakini ni watano sio wanne. Vidokezo zaidi kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa gazeti hili. Pale juu anasema wataka seneti kupinga mfumo wa ugavi mapato. Mfumo mpya wa ugavi wa mapato wa kaunti uliopendekezwa na CRA unakabiliwa na upinzani kutoka kwa magavana, huku ukisubiri kuidhinishwa na seneti. Hizi ni habari tu kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa gazeti hili. Vidokezo zaidi pale chini anasema pesa za Bursary za fujwa na ripoti, na wanasema mkaguzi mkuu wa hesabu za serikali Nancy Gathungu afichua ubadhirifu wa fedha za ustawi wa maeneo bunge NGCDF. Hiyo inakuanga, ukiuliza wabunge wengi hawapendi kuzungumzia maneno haya sana. Washukiwa Shakahola wapata pigo, koti yasema uhaba wa fedha ilivyosema ODPP ni sababu halali kuadhirisha kesi. Kesi ya Shakahola haijawahi kuisha, inaendelea. Na sasa kwingineko, masuala ya Uganda, anasema mwanawe Museveni atishia Bobby, anamuita Kabobi pale kwenye Twitter. X Muhozi Kairenu Gaba asema isingekuwa babake angeshamkamata shingo Bobi Wine. Kaineru gaba pale. Let's take a look at the People Daily.
We see how Ruto's state mutes his critics, and we see the 5 gentlemen there. That is Peter Muteti, Bernard Kavuli, Bonnie Kiplingett, that Steve Mbisi is still missing, Billy Mwangi, and Kibet Paul. And just to mention, you know, Kibet is so funny as much as he's a very great caricaturist, if I do say so. Alitoka kule ambapo alikuwa amefungiwa, and he said when he was brought out, alienda disco matanga. You know, I read that and I laughed.
I think it's the way he's expressing it, but he tried to explain that
yes.
where he was dropped off, left was a very strange place to him. It was somewhere 5 kilometers from Luanda, where he's never been to.
Yeah.
So, and it was late, early morning, around 3 a.m., so he could not go anywhere. So the safest place was probably Disco Matanga. That's what he said.
Yeah.
And that's where he spent about an hour or so before he could find his way back home. I don't know why people are finding that funny.
Yeah, you know.
What else would you do? What else would you do if it was you?
Right,
you know,
what else would you do? That's a very good question.
Is not really a modern urban setup. So probably that was the only place, probably that's the only place he could see or find life. Yes, at least he is safe. That's the People Daily. A very interesting story here. Pope appoints first woman to head Vatican department. For Catholics, this is a story you may want to read. It's on page 3 of this daily.
That is Sister Simona Brambila. I'm Catholic. I'll take a look at it.
Government eats humble pie on grade 9 preparations. We still continue monitoring the back to school issues, shortage of classrooms, shortage of teachers, no books available, confusion in grade 9, and government is eating humble pie. What exactly are they doing? That story is on page 7 of the People Daily. Tuko tushangazia maswala ya nchi kanda ya East Africa. Tuangazie Karakacha. Maswala ya Karakacha, na tunaanza na gazeti la People Daily. So yes, on the People Daily, this is a cartoon today. And there's some big shoes there, branded 2027 opposition, with ule jamaa Murima ako ndani ya kiatu. Anasema it's time to walk the talk. That's according to Stano, the cartoonist at the People Daily. So yes, and this mirrors what is on the front page of the Star newspaper, which talks about Gachagua's plan for 2027. Which shoe will he wear now that he's seeking a new vehicle for 2027 elections, and the president is seeking something different? What happens to UDA? So that's the People Daily. Let's take a look at the Star.
All right, that is university funding model, desk there, student desk, and we can see hapo ndani ya kabati kuna 844 CBC results.
Ini kabati ama ni classroom? Because this is a CS for education.
Yes,
Migos. Ogamba. So amefungua class because these are students going back to school, and a very tired parent who's carrying his child on his back, and the child has an even bigger school bag, bigger than the learner. But now they're opening the classroom ready for the new academic year.
You see,
but there's a lot of confusion inside the classroom.
Yes.
Is it 844? Is it CBC?
Is it results?
Are the results of KCSE? You remember you told me that KCSE results would be out yesterday. We're still waiting. We still have results for KCSE, KPSEA. Outside here, we still have issues to do with the university funding model. A lot of confusion. So I think this cartoonist is just talking about the confusion and lack of clarity as we get into the new academic
And
year.
you know, that is why I said kabati, because it's so confused in Aka kabati.
Anyway, yeah, that's a cartoon on the Star. And do we have any other cartoon? To say right. Cartoon here, the Daily Nation.
I think in the meantime, we can take a look at what's happening in
you can take a look at
Business Daily as we wait for that. Oh, there it is.
That's a cartoon on the Standard, and it has 2 frames, then and now, of a caricature of the president. On the first frame, back then, anasema nikiweka Biblia chini tu, and he made a lot of promises. Now he says, he's asking himself, how come everything seems not to be working? And the commentator down there tells him, uliweka Biblia chini. So that's the problem. Yeah? And the Daily Nation, this is a very interesting depiction of some of the leaders who've been commenting on security matters. And you know the clamor that we've been having for the past 1 week calling for the release of abductees. Now this one, against a black background, we have images of a few leaders under the headline, Release Our Leaders from Commenting and Engaging with Critical National and Moral Issues. So this cartoonist has deemed this particular leaders here. And I think these caricatures resemble some of, I can see the majority leader there, the minority leader of the National Assembly, Speaker of the Senate, this MP from Western Kenya, MP from Kapseret, the Kotu Secretary General. And according to this cartoonist, they should be released from commenting and engaging with critical national and moral issues. I tend to agree with this cartoonist. Some of these leaders should take a break from commenting on some of these issues. Some are too sensitive. Na kama hauna hiyo range ya kupima kama maneno yako yanasaidia anywhere, sometimes it's just good to remain silent.
To read the room.
Yeah, read the room, remain silent. Hautaulizwa, utakuwa tu sawa. All right, it's exactly 32 past the hour. I think we can safely go back and take a look at the traffic situation in Nairobi.
All right.
Before we, sasa hii imeenda wapi? Imeenda Mombasa. Taking a look at Jogoo Road. Or is it looking at Likoni Road? So, okay, this one, I think we'll have to change a few things here. I don't know why it's not showing us the traffic situation, yes. So yes, you can see now how the problem is. And I told you this promised to be a very bad issue. You can see Thika Road, how it's looking. And this is the Utalii Drift, just before you get to the Mathare Mental Hospital and the Muthaiga Pangani interchange there. You can see all that red, kuanzia hapa chini all the way into a section of Moranga Road. So if you're using Thika Road into town, if you can avoid it, fine. But just know that if you have no choice, then you'll have to spend some time around this area. That's from Utalii Drift all the way up to Moranga Road. Let's take a look at Jogoo Road and see if at all it's any better. Jogoo Road, yes, there's also a very long stretch of red all the way from Makadara up to the roundabout of Likoni Road, where we have the St. Stephen's Jogoo Road Church there. So even Jogoo Road, the users on Jogoo Road, kuna shida pale. So if you can leave early or avoid that stretch between Buruburu and Makadara, please do.
There's still a smell up there, Fred.
Oh, this one is also getting interesting. The Central Business District, the entire stretch of Haile Selassie Avenue, all the way from Uhuru Highway down to Landis Road. Yes, it is looking dark red. We're just seeing dark red and patches of yellow here and there, meaning that there's heavy traffic in and around town. Then this is because many people are traveling back to school and back to work around Easy Coach, North Rift buses there, Ena Coach. So wasafiri, kama unaweza acha gari huku juu and then utembee karibia huku chini, the better for you. Other roads are not looking so bad. Mombasa Road is looking good into town. Langata Road too, Strathmore around that area of Bagadhiwa is looking good. Ngong Road as well looking good. And the other major tributary into town is Waiyaki Way. And nothing much to report on that stretch. So the biggest areas of problem are Pangani Interchange and Haile Selassie Avenue, the entire stretch on both sides of the road as well. So yes, time for State of the Nation. After the break, we'll be having panelists, MPs. Do we have that poster? Just put it up on the screen so that we can introduce our panelists. Yes, James Gachagua, MP Embakasi North, Daniel Manduku, MP Nyaribari Masaba, and Professor Fred Ogola, governance and economics expert, will be in studio for the discussions this morning. Later on,
all right, later on, we are talking about matters finances. We are talking about how to set your financial goals for the year 2025. And remember to interact with us on our social media platforms. That is TV47 Kenya on Facebook, TV47 Kenya on YouTube, TV47 News KE. On X, my handle is Ann_Odide.
Mine is at Freddy Demuli on X.
The hashtag is Morning Cafe.
Oh, yes.
Stay with us.
This December, learn about safety precautions to take into consideration this season.
If you can remember, if you drive on a motorcycle often, to make sure that you have a helmet, it's key to decreasing the severity of the accidents.
If you are passed in a bus from Kakamega to Mombasa, in between, just stand up, stretch your legs, and even when you are seated, keep pumping your feet, keep moving your feet to avoid that long stasis of blood in the veins.
Healthier options for you to maintain a balanced lifestyle amid the holiday hustle.
Eating healthy really doesn't mean that you have to deprive yourself, but we really just have to factor on how to strike a balance. Portion control and moderation are very key. Let us enjoy the season, and at the same time, let us try to watch our health and our well-being.
Happy holidays.
Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism, how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all.
Wailing, confusion, and immense joy. That is how abductee Billy Mwangi was received this morning in Majengo, Embu County. His mother, Regina Wairimu, clung to him, tears streaming freely as relatives and friends celebrated his safe return more than 2 weeks after his disappearance. The 24-year-old blogger was abducted on December 21st, 2024 by alleged four-hooded men while waiting in line for a haircut.
First sana tunashukuru Mungu kwa sababu mtoto alikuja saa 2, nisikia mtu kwa gate mtoto anaitana mama fungua. Sasa ndio nikafungua nikaona he's okay.
Mpaka saa hii we have not recovered from that happiness. Because it was really a trauma. But now that he has come, hiyo mambo yote ya shida na nini, let us just keep it behind us.
Meanwhile, in Kajiado County, emotions were similarly high as Bernard Kavuli arrived at Ngong's Moi Bridge police station. His family's relief was palpable as Kavuli stepped out of a car, ending the grueling search for him.
Changu siku ya leo ni kuwashukuru marafiki zote wa Bernard, kwa X, kwa mtandao yote, pastors, kila mtu yoyote mwenye alitusaidia financially, maombi, kututembelea. Tulitembelewa na watu wengi sana kwa ajili ya ndugu yangu mdogo. Nasema nina furaha mingi sana nikiwa mbele yenu, na ninawashukuru nyinyi wote, mpaka hata viongozi wa kwetu huko nyumbani Ukambani, na washukuru mahali wako wote. Mungu awabariki.
Well, for now, our client pleads and requests that you accept his request to keep mum. Let him just go, take a cold shower. I mean, hata yeye aweze kulala kwa kitanda kama wewe.
This even as the National Police Service has confirmed that Kavuli, Mwangi, as well as Peter Muteti and Ronnie Kiplangat have reunited with their families. Furthermore, the Office of Inspector General of Police has vowed to offer support to the young men and their families. Reports further indicate that caricaturist Kibet Bull was released Monday morning, despite the police not indicating his whereabouts. This comes as the High Court is expected to hear all cases filed against Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja on the 8th of January regarding the abductions of this man last year. Stanley Nyerengita, TV47.
Yes, indeed, it is the biggest discussion and features on the front pages of our dailies. Released by whom is a question on the front page of the Daily Nation. Queries as captivity horror tales emerge. That's the front page of the Standard. On People Daily, they talk about how Ruto state mutes his critics. And on the front page of Taifa Leo, wanauliza waliachiliwa na nani? Definitely a big discussion this morning. Allow me to introduce my panelists. Daniel Manduku, MP Nyaribari Masaba. Happy New Year. It's good to see you, sir. Karibu sana at TV47.
Thank you very much, and Happy New Year to you too and to our viewers.
Yes. Professor Fred Ogola, governance and economic expert, also joins us. Happy New Year. It's good to have you this morning.
Happy New Year, Fred. I also want to wish all our viewers and Kenyans, wherever they are, a very happy New Year 2025.
Oh, yes. And last but definitely not least, James Gakuya, MP Embakasi North. Karibu sana and Happy New Year to you too.
Thank you, good morning. Happy New Year too, and Happy New Year to viewers wherever they are.
All right. So yesterday morning we were wondering whether or not to wish each other Happy New Year with my panelists, but today at least there's something happy about the release of these abductees. But is it enough? And that's a question, because there are questions to be asked. Who released them? Who had held them captive? What happened to these people? Are there still others who are still missing? Definitely, I think on the dailies they indicate that Steve Mbisi, who was abducted on December 17th in Mlolongo, is still missing. So we may be wishing each other Happy New Year, but there's still many questions that linger. And are you satisfied with the release of the 5, Bwana Manduku?
Once again, morning viewers, and let me take this opportunity to wish our viewers a happy and prosperous New Year 2025. In the Muli, it is a very sad moment today when we celebrate, yes, the release of some of our sons who had been abducted, but still ask ourselves, how come in a country which prides itself as being democratic, which follows the rule of law, and which increasingly is becoming a focal point for international attention in matters governance, we can celebrate the return of our children without condemning the abduction. It is even more worrying to me, Mr. Ndimuli, when I heard His Excellency the President saying that he was not aware of what happened. It was even more worrying when the Inspector General of Police himself distanced his people from these abductions, whereas everyone in Kenya suspects that it is the police. Now, you ask yourself, if the head of state is not aware, if the police is not aware, is there a parallel system that is running this country? how do we guarantee safety of other people, given that the police cannot guarantee safety, your own safety? And so in as much as we thank God that these young people have been released, we should be worried. We should be a very worried lot. Secondly, I think we are radicalizing these young people. Don't forget that there are between 8 and 10 million of such young people in this country today. And so if you abduct 5, 6, 10, 20, you still have 9 million plus. I can tell you these young people today are going to be heroes. They'll be seen as heroes. And they're going to give an impetus to their fellow comrades to see this as an act of heroism. And so in as much as we want to stop young people from doing whatever they do on social media, we should do it in a very decent way, not through abductions. Abductions only made them hardened. Look at the case of the young Turks of the 1990s. We had people like Raila Odinga, James Orengo, Martin Shikuku, Gitobu Manyara, Kiraitu Murungi. Look at them 30 years later. Because of the hard stand that the government took at that time, they became heroes and later on ended up being leaders in this country. And so you cannot treat dissent or perceived dissent through abductions. If there's a problem, there must be another way of dealing with it, not through abductions.
Okay. Professor Gola, by yesterday morning, women went to the streets. The main agitation was release these children. 5 of them were released within the same day. And whoever released them probably is hoping that that would be enough to pacify the general masses. Do you think it is enough, or do you think Kenyans are still in that state where once that agitation is successful, then that's it? They go quiet. Do you think that will happen this time around?
Yeah, first and foremost, Fred, let me take this chance to congratulate the judiciary, congratulate the activists, civil society, congratulate different leaders who voiced their concern, like LSK, among other bodies. Even the Gen Z, the concerned Kenyan citizen movement that are pushing for this and making them be released, because even we had to set up propaganda that they have been killed already to make the government feel they're in trouble, because propaganda works. And let me say, Fred, that the street action works, because the release of these people is a product of the street action. But the problem I have, Fred, is that who is leading Kenya? Is Kenya being led from the street or being led from State House? In actual sense, State House should lead. Now, when the people go to the street to tell the state this is wrong, then the state acts. Who is leading Kenya? And who should lead Kenya? Kenya should be led by the head of state. And when the head of state, when the head cannot act like the head, but only the tail is working better than the head, then it is the tail wagging the head, not the head wagging the tail. Just like the dog should be wagging the tail, not the tail wagging the dog. So with such kind of leadership, where is the country going? Because the questions are that, is it enough? And Fred, let me just explain what this is the problem. The most important problem we need to be asking, people went to the street to tell the state to release these people. Why are they being abducted? Is because they are showing dissent, like my colleague has said. And what is the dissent? They're dissenting against bad governance. They're dissenting against corruption, because the government is grossly corrupt and grossly incompetent. Service delivery is not working. So unless you solve that problem of gross incompetence and gross corruption in government, grand corruption, you have not sorted the problem. If I think it's not enough. It's not enough because why were they even agitating in social media in the first case? The Gen Z went to the street, they expressed their dissatisfaction. The government has not done that, they just formed a broad-based government. So they have not responded to the problem that Kenyans are facing. And let me explain this in a deeper sense. Right, when I was in primary school, I was sorry to say I was among the brightest students, just like you and all of us on this set. those people are always in danger of the teachers who are not very competent. If you raise up your hand and question them, they beat you thoroughly because they are feeling that you are making the class feel they are stupid. For example, I was a professor in Strathmore. When you teach class and say we have 5 P's of marketing, then others says actually there are 7. So you become annoyed and you beat a very intelligent person. Instead of that, when I was a director in Strathmore, I tell lecturers, please, time has gone where the students are ahead of you in terms of knowledge. What you can do is to use them in class to make others learn from them. But you're not the one who holds all the knowledge. So the state has to realize that these people were educated during Kibaki's time. Those free primary education, some of them have advanced, somebody with a master's degree, with a PhD, look at like people like Kibet, look at Muteti. They are highly skilled in that area. So the best way to do is, how can you put this into use? So we have a problem in this country. SHA and SHIF is not working. CBC is not working. There are so many things the government cannot succeed technologically. Put these people into productive use of that knowledge they have instead of abducting them. For example, you realize that these people are graduates. They are angry. They are hungry. How can you contain a hungry graduate? You can only contain them by putting in productive work, not abducting them. And if you look at what happened in South Korea, we give examples of Singapore, we give examples of Japan, we give examples of Germany. These tigers looked at the young people, used what's called the demographic dividends of the young people, educated, young, energetic, put them in innovation hubs and centers. In Kenya, I'm happy Kenya Kwanza came up with the issue of ICT centers. But these ICT centers, are they putting these young people, intelligent, qualified people, to work so that they leave you alone? Because if you give these people what they can be waking up to do, how will they wake up to put your pictures on social media or videos?
What I'm hearing from you is that just releasing the 5 yesterday is not enough to quell the anger or the agitation.
It is not enough. In fact, it's not even the right decision, because why did you attack them in the first case? Okay. And if you find out the root cause analysis, what is the cause of causes? We talk about, in Latin, we call it causa causarum. The cause of the causes is that the economy is not performing. Unemployment rates are very high. Poverty levels are too high. The corruption is very high. Incompetence is the order of the day. You put incompetent people in government, yet you leave very competent young people doing nothing and jobless. What do? They turn to you and they show you that you don't know what you are doing. Okay. So what the president needs to do is, he needs to find something productive for these young people. I'm an academic. We invest a lot of money in education. In the budget, the MPs are sitting next to me, I can confirm, education receives the highest budget allocation. If you can't use the educated people and you want to move them from they're using their education to sell, can you imagine locking an intelligent person for 32 days? Those people have been there for 2 weeks. Somebody who can use their mind to generate something, you lock them in a cell. Are you using these young people rightly? While our competitors like Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda are putting their youth into ICT hubs, for us, we're putting them in jail. 10 years down the line, if you realize that Ethiopia has overtaken Kenya, are you going to tell us it was just by coincidence? It is by design by the state to bring us down, yet allow just ignorance to rule the country. And that's the problem.
Bwana Gakuya, I'll draw your attention to the cartoon on the Daily Nation today. It's against a black background, and my director could assist me with that just by putting it on the screen. And the banner, release our leaders from commenting on such critical national and moral issues. Now, this is caricatures, yes, thank you for that. These are caricatures of just some of the leaders who've commented on this abduction. Some of them even went as far as blaming the former deputy president for the abductions and saying he's the one behind these abductions. This issue has been turned political, and people have found political fodder for something that definitely has to do with more of security. Do you think that this will have any end when it comes to political rhetoric? That politicians have found something that they can continue with, probably even worsening the situation. Now they've been released, you see more politicians talking about how probably they are not genuine and they probably abducted themselves. What do you say about that?
Thank you, Edmore. And coming to the concern, what I would say, let me say, that every elected government has a duty. Because I believe by the time that a head of state swears in and takes oath, he takes oath to protect the Constitution and the people and the people's property. And the manner in which the response has been coming out on matters abduction has been very much shocking. That in fact even the IG could come out to a media to tell Kenyans that he's not aware. No single government agency was aware on how these matters were being handled. At this point in time, I wonder how could one Besigye, a presidential contender of Uganda, found himself in Nairobi and found himself abducted and taken back through our borderlines to Uganda. Does the government want to say that it was asleep and they were never part of that particular scenario or that particular situation which took place? And if even today the government has not committed itself on the manner in which Besigye was handled, that is the same way that our sons had been handled by the same state. And I would like to say that the obligation that our agencies has is to make sure that they give us information any good time. You can't tell me that in fact in the social medias they were having very informed information, giving to the state that in fact a particular vehicle, which was a four-wheel drive, and another vehicle with their registration number, you can't tell us that you are even not able to trace where those vehicles could be. You cannot even be able to trace the owners of those vehicles, which abducted, and especially the last person, who was this young man from Embu. And this tells me the whole scenario and saga. There is no way that the state can get out of it. And nobody else can be taken responsible on this particular saga. Yes. It is high time that the government should understand our country is a democratic country. And at this point in time, we have fought so vigorous to come out of a single party, and it costed the lives of Kenyans to have a multi-partyism. And if the country has arrived, a state has arrived to a situation where they want to silence everybody who has a constitutional right to speak out, then it's better now alive in what we can, I would say, let us turn this country back to one state, to one party, so that we can dictate the country in the manner that we would wish. But in the way that we are in, and the constitution that we have as a nation, I believe it gives Kenyans a democratic space. And we cannot allow that space to be crossed at any single moment. Okay. In this case, I would say, Kenyans, you must wake up and vigorously fight for your rights. Don't allow our constitution be taken to the hyena. It will be so unfortunate, Edimuri, if at this point in time we are not merciful to take care of our young ones. How can we be able to say that to silence the young ones because they are challenging the government in the social media? The only way to silence them is to teach them in this manner.
Yeah, that is what we're hearing from your colleagues in Parliament. And if you look at that cartoon in the Daily Nation, it has the leader of a caricature of the leader of majority in the National Assembly, a caricature of the minority leader in the same National Assembly, a caricature of the Senate Speaker talking about the same thing, plus other MPs. In fact, it is members of the National Assembly and the Senate who are talking and saying that the president or the state or whoever is doing this should do it even more. And I wonder, when it comes to the Houses of Parliament, which are supposed to oversight the executive and even other arms of government, how does that work when members of the National Assembly and the Senate are the ones saying that this is actually right?
Anybody would say that, in fact, you may think that you are so important because of your closeness to the power, and you want to make the master happy. But you should not, at any single moment, forget that you are people's representative. I have taken a concern that in the whole saga, I have not had Governor of Embu uttering a word on matters, the abduction saga of her constituent. It is so shocking. And I would ask myself, should I really run away from my responsibility because I want to be loyal to the master? If we are going to be that low as politicians, then I can tell you in the morning, the country is lost. Mm-hmm. Totally lost.
Yes. On these issues of parliamentarians, because there's another MP from Baringo who was telling the president, Kamata Hawa, probably indicating that it's even the president who's doing it. But most of this warring rhetoric is coming from members of the National Assembly, parliamentarians, and the Senate Speaker as well. He has been accused of saying something that did not augur well with members of the public.
Fred, it is quite unfortunate that we elected members of parliament have let down our electorate. The framers of our constitution envisaged a situation where there would be independence between the three arms of government. I am on record as having said that the challenge we have and that we are facing is that most of us members of parliament are conflicted. We are in bed with the executive. We are friends of the president. We are friends of the cabinet members of parliament, cabinet secretaries. And so the oversight role is blurred. The line between oversight, legislation, and executive is blurred. And that is a problem. I cannot be having breakfast with the president today and then tomorrow tell him something that he doesn't want to hear. And I've always said, and I'm on record as having said that in as far as I'm concerned, and this gave me a lot of backlash, this National Assembly, as currently constituted, is not serving the interests of Kenyans. Mm-hmm. When I said that last, you remember, everyone told me to resign because they didn't see the point. Why am I saying this? It cannot be that every time something like this happens, instead of condemning the act and giving solutions or giving ways of possible remedy, we go on what I would call a praise and worship kind of scenario. I think it is respectful to tell the head of state or the executive where they go wrong. And it's the right thing to do. But most of us, either because we are drunk with power or because we are excited at the spur of the moment in the presence of the head of state, cannot be able to tell him that. It's a very worrying situation, and it is not getting better. Mm-hmm. Now that we in the opposition are part of government, it is bound to get worse. And I'm telling Kenyans to brace themselves for tougher times ahead. The National Assembly, as currently constituted, is not serving the interests of Kenyans. And that is why none of us as members of parliament is speaking against abductions, is speaking against very bad economic situation, because we are conflicted. And it's a very sad affair.
Okay. Yeah. The Kenya Human Rights Commission has called for the resignation of the leader of majority in the National Assembly because of some comments he made, claiming that some of the abductions, the abductees were faking their abductions for financial gain. What do you say to that?
Yeah, first of all, Fred is on record that on 23rd of June, 2023, I was at Milmani Law Courts when I said that if Parliament does not change, we shall go to Parliament, set it on fire, and let Parliament run away. And that's what we did on 25th of June. I've been telling people that what happened on 25th of June was not organized in a 1 week. It was a 1 year work. I know how we did it, and I can now explain it. For me, I lost faith in Parliament in 2023 after passing the finance bill. And Fred, let me say that I want to bring this again to the fight between Harvey and Martha Koome by stating that the only functioning arm of government that you can even give a B plane is judiciary. Because Parliament has passed Adani. Parliament passed the finance bill. They passed the house levy. They passed university funding model. There's nothing ailing Kenya Parliament has not passed. Parliament has also approved all the leaders who are corrupt in all administration in Kenya, because all of them are vetted in Parliament, nowhere else. If that Parliament will do their work, we don't have to go through this path again. For example, as far as I'm concerned, when NIA said they are not abducting people, you saw, for example, National Police Service said they're not abducting people. According to me, it should be the single person called Nojin Haji who should be actually answerable to this abduction. I know people say the president has never appeared with any hooded hat abducting people. If he does, he gives instruction, isn't it? And let me tell Kenyans that everybody has a single responsibility not to conduct a wrongful order. Fred, if your boss at TV47 would order you to do something which is unconstitutional, you as a Kenyan shouldn't do it. If I was, let's say, Inspector General, and I'm being told by the president to abduct and tell them, no, that's not, I'm here to maintain law and order. Law and order, there is no room for abductions. So Parliament is a horse trading environment. They impeach Gachagua. There's nothing they have not done wrong. Every law, they are supposed to be lawmakers. Everything they pass, the court reverses them as unconstitutional.
You know, you're seated
yes,
in the middle of...
I'm not afraid of anything, my brother. You know, for us, we died a long time ago when we were waiting for certificate of burial. So I don't think there's something to be afraid of. I'm an academic. I'm a scholar. We swore to truth shall set us free. So the truth I'm talking about is that every good thing that these guys are called lawmakers, they're the biggest lawbreakers. How comes they pass bills which are unconstitutional? And the day we rejected finance, the day we rejected finance bill, they passed the finance bill that day. Then, after Mandamano, it was rejected by the president. Then they clap. You pass, you feel you're doing good. In the evening, you clap for it being signed. Adani, they were approving it in the morning when Opiyo Wandayi says Adani is good, isn't it? When the president made the speech that it is going to be, they were standing up and giving the president a standing ovation. They have no brain of their own. The Parliament has no brain of itself. Their brain cells are conducted from State House. So according to me, the lack of independence, in fact, Fred, the problem we are having in the economy, the problem we are having in corruption is caused by institutional failure. Majorly, Parliament as one of the key institutions. And Fred, just compare. This Parliament we have now, can you compare the Parliament that was there, let's say when Raila Odinga was in Parliament, William Ruto was in Parliament, the Parliament that could stand and really canvass an issue? This Parliament normally receive brief, so they debate according to what has passed their pocket. And we know very well, even the voting to impeach Gachagua, even from Parliament to Senate, some people allied to Kenya Kwanza could pass by Chungwa's office. You sign the censure, you receive your money, you pass through UNET's office, receive your money. So I agree with the Kenya National Human Rights Commission that these people do not even deserve to be there, because even a fellow member of Parliament says that they are dysfunctional.
But we agree that...
and we just compare how much of the taxpayers' money goes to Parliament, and therefore Parliament does nothing to represent the people. And then lastly, we talked about the fact that MPs should not be given some money where they use executive powers at the same time they are doing oversight. They should remain purely an oversight body. And the fact that I was seeing many members of Parliament, governors like Mr. Goya said, going to Sasa was saying we are coming to work with the president. Governors have their money in the county. Do your work there. Why are you coming to State House to do work? MPs, why should you have breakfast in State House? Why don't you have breakfast with your members of Parliament, with your constituents? This State House breakfast, for what? You don't lack food. I'm sure all MPs can afford breakfast at their houses. And these things of saying we are working government does not need you. And I can go on. I know
you can go on.
No, let me just go on to explain this thing. For me, Harvey is picking the wrong fight with judiciary, because judiciary is the single man standing.
Okay.
They have made decisions for habeas corpus, now forcing the IB to appear in court so that they can release these young people. They have done everything Kenyans have asked for. So I do not see something wrong, because if government executives are performing D, Parliament is getting E, who should go first? The E performer, the D performer, before we touch the B performer, who is what?
Parliament should be out first.
They should be out first, followed by the executive, and then lastly is when you can discuss about judiciary.
Parliament is the weakest link. Even on this issue of abductions.
First and foremost, let me undertake that Parliament has a duty to represent, to registrate, and to oversight. And in most of the cases, it happens that the independency that I believe that should be the core to every single member in terms of determining what is good to the people and what is not good to the people, sometimes that conscience does not apply. And what I always blame is what we call Political Parties Act, where parties have given a lot of power to control Parliament. I believe that kind of power that parties control, that a party can be able to whip members and tell members, this is the line to toe. To me, that right is unconstitutional to me, because you must allow the House to register it and make determinations as per merit. But if at a point that you call PGs and whip members to take a particular direction, that to me is where we get lost. And because these laws are being passed by House, including the Political Parties Act is passed by House, I hope that in fact the members can see the importance and make the necessary amendments to such political laws. Okay. And number two, let me tell my panelists that as much as you want to blame wholesomely the members of Parliament, just give at least a notion that in fact it has never been a whole house direction. Why do you want to blame everybody? Every Dick and Harry. Because if it is a process, there is always yes and nays and yes.
It would appear the National Assembly is moving
and in this case, the tradition of the House is a merit by what we call a vote. If a particular agenda is being dropped through a vote, then you cannot blame the whole House, because House is traditionally is being controlled by what you call a vote at the floor of the House, and that vote cannot be called by anybody else but by the Speaker. And you may be willing that in fact the House should protect this, but if the numbers doesn't work, what do? I think members of the public who elects these members to the House has also equal duty to persuade their members that they do duly elect to go their way. Okay. And if a member does disagree with the voice of the people, then it is the people's right to show them out. Okay. And this should be the way. Because we cannot keep blaming members every day, and these members are constitutionally elected by people. They are not being picked. They are elected.
Okay.
And therefore...
Fred, just 1 minute.
I want us to move from that
just 30 seconds
of actions, yes.
Let us also be very honest that Kenyans have done through public participation. Even they said kufa driver, kufa makanga, isn't it? They didn't listen to public participation. Even went to court on Finance Act. Public participation was lacking. Even the court nullified those bills because of lack of public participation. So I would not agree that Kenyans have not expressed what they want. Kenyans know what they want, and they have expressed it so. If you go to social media, what Kenyans want is very clear. The only thing is that Parliament has never sided with them. They told Parliament, don't pass the Finance Act. They passed it. Okay. And that's why we had to go to Parliament to let them live in ambulances. And because they have not listened again, it might just happen again.
Okay. I want us now to move. I know the issues of abductions is the main headline. We'll stick with Parliament for a while, but moving to a different kind of discussion. Yes, the issue of the abductions, 5 of them were released yesterday, at least 1 is still missing. That's according to the records and according to the front pages today. The one still missing is Steve Mbisi, who was abducted in Lolongo on December 17th. For now, let's pause on the issue of abductions and talk about something else that features on the front pages, that's on the front page of the Daily Nation. This being the very first academic week of the year, it's also back to school. Issues of bursary do come up. So the headline on the Daily Nation also affects members of the National Assembly. They say how corrupt officers pocket needy learners' bursary cash. An audit report has revealed that millions of bursary cash meant for needy learners could be ending up in the pockets of a few corrupt officers and MPs. Learners are this week reporting back to school for the first time of 2025, and many are waiting for the disbursement of their bursaries. The report by Auditor General Nancy Gathungu, released in December last year, reveals serious mismanagement of the National Government Constituency Development Fund bursary kitties. Bwana Daniel Manduku, this discussion has been rife about combining and lumping all these bursary kitties from the NGCDF one to the one the governors have into one lump sum fund that could actually, and many people have argued that if we do that, we could actually be able to fund free education. Now we are seeing that according to this report, members of parliament are actually the ones benefiting from bursaries directly at the expense of learners, or needy learners for that matter.
Fred, let me say this. On the onset, I would thoroughly condemn any acts of embezzling bursary funds or funds meant to aid challenged learners. Second, let me say that if you remember, when His Excellency William Ruto took over, he formed a task force, which was a presidential working party on educational reforms. And I remember this task force came up with 21 recommendations. It is very sad that I think most of those 21 recommendations have not been effected. Never mind that most of them, or most of the recommendations, were purely administrative. And one of the recommendations was to amalgamate the bursary funds. In theory, it's a very good practice. In fact, in theory, it works. But then, even before we go there, we ask ourselves, how come then, even when it comes to matters of capitation, the same government still has challenges of transferring monies meant for the learners to the schools, be it the secondary schools or the primary schools? And so in as much as amalgamating the bursaries may look a perfect idea, theoretically, it is not practical, given that we have challenges of exchequer release already experienced, even to funds that are already budgeted for. Now, I've read through this report on the Auditor General's views. First of all, let me make a disclaimer that this Auditor General's report was up to the year 2022, up to June 2022. And so members of the National Assembly currently in office are not affected by this. Except those who are serving their second terms. Why am I saying this? If you come to my constituency, Nyaribari Masaba, there is a procedure in first identifying the needy students, secondly, allocating the funds, and thirdly, disbursing those funds to the needy learners directly to the schools. This money is never given to individual learners. For example, if you identify 10 children or 10 learners from a school called Ichuni Girls, which is my local area, we'll do a check of, say, 100,000 shillings to Ichuni Girls, and then do a schedule and say this 100,000 shillings belongs to student number 1, Miriam Nyaboke, number 2, Catherine Bosibori, number 3, Mary Indimuli, etc. And so the money never comes to the MPs, unless the Auditor General is telling us that that is what she has come across. Money is paid directly from the account to the schools. That is the practice, at least in my constituency. Now, if you read through the audit report, and I know how audits are done, there's an entry meeting, there's an audit, there's what they call a draft report, and then the fund manager is supposed to respond to that draft report. Now, the challenge we've had in most of these cases is where the fund managers were transferred. At this time, most fund managers were transferred, so that by the time the auditor is coming in 2024 to do an audit of 2022, there was no response on the audit queries. It is not possible, for example, they have said here, one constituency neighboring me, Nyaribari Chache, which is my neighboring constituency, it is not possible that the member of parliament there embezzled 96 million. It's not possible. Sometimes the auditor, yes, does her work. I know she's got auditing standards, I agree. But then it is a lack of that reply. And the reason is, in most of these constituencies, the sitting members of parliament today are different from those who were there at that time. And because of that lack of that information, they just put in the press
the issue
that
of
money has been...
goes to beneficiaries, where money is sent to schools
it is
for
possible.
people who do not exist, and probably that money finds its way back to the pockets of members of parliament?
It is possible. But I can tell you, those are isolated cases. Members of parliament have an interest of their electorate. At least I do. I would not want to see a situation where I give money to a school, give a list of learners to benefit, and then go back and get that money. It's not possible.
Let's allow...
Furthermore, just think of it like this. How many people are in the chain? You have the money released to school, the school account. The school account has got ways of running that money. So how is it really? Does the head teacher again write a check to you, or does he withdraw and give you the money back? How does it happen?
If the beneficiary does not exist in that school, then it's up to the school to return the money. Where do they return it? That could be the issue. Bwana Gachagua, do you agree that yes, there are specific cases where CDF money or bursary money is spent prudently by some MPs, but in many other cases, there's quite a problem?
Edemore, I want to concur with the claim. It is correct that there is always ways and means of spawning monies for bursary. I have even witnessed this case in my constituency. Yes. Where they have been corroding of particular schools, principals, with some CDF officers. And we have come to an end. I have dealt with 2 cases. One child, particular school, was elevated with 300,000. How can that be? How can that be? That is a pure syndicate to spin out to squander the money. I can tell you it is happening, including in these counties, where the syndicate is between the receiver, who is the principal of the school, and the cocoon. And that happens. And then what happens is that at the end of the day, you realize that share is shared between. Probably you may find a situation where bursaries are being sold, forms of bursaries are equally sold. A beneficiary is getting only 5,000. But those forms are sold at between 1,000 and 2,000. How can we be getting these kind of scenarios? I can tell you, people are sincere, but not everybody is sincere. We still have logs, even in our constituency, including some parents. So that there is that kind of cocoon. And what a member should do is to take control of his area. And the other member should take control of his area. I cannot even say that some particular members are not part of this. Yes, because there is no way you can have a situation where over millions of money have exited without your knowledge and your oversight.
Okay.
No.
When it comes to CDF, this is one of the kitties that members of the National Assembly are known to defend with their lives.
Yeah.
They've said that they cannot give it up, and they hold even the executive ransom when it comes to the CDF. Yet, once again, weakest link.
So, Fred, I'm very fortunate to have been a professor in STARTIMES for 12 years. I have supervised students who are MPs who do research on national CDF. And the research we did found out that CDF has got structural weaknesses that leaves the populace at the mercy of the MP, which is what we are saying we don't want. So we should have Kenyans with guaranteed rights irrespective of who sits in those things. Like now, as a scholar, I'm an academic. Fred, do you know why different constituencies perform differently regarding CDF? It's because their performance depends on who is the MP. My brother here, Honorable Manduku, could be doing very well because maybe he's an honest man. And my brother Gachagua could be doing well because he's an honest man. But generally, how many MPs are honest in Kenya? How can we leave the citizens at the mercy of the MP? If they get a thief, it's done. Majority, most of the MPs in parliament are corrupt, incompetent, isn't it? I don't mean well for citizens, and that's what is happening there. If you go to Infotech Harris survey, you can find the results there, obviously. People report on parliament performance, they're there. Some of them have never even spoken in parliament forever. Some of them only are there just to vote when it comes to voting, but they never talk anything. So as far as I'm concerned, this fundamental problem is the structural weaknesses of the governance of the CDF and any other bursary funds, because the sitting speaker, Honorable Moses Wetangula, when the question on this CDF came, he said that MPs are village ATMs. So they need this money to dispense cash. And I'm quoting him word by word, and Fred, you have record of this. Because I'm an economist, I'm a scholar, I'm an academic, I have nothing biased against anybody. Those are facts, they know it. They were in parliament when he said it. So if this money is an ATM for my MPs, then it should be changed from being an ATM actually to be a fund to enhance education. Which means that the current setup means that the MP can use this fund the way he wants. Do you know why many MPs of parliament return to parliament in this current parliament as opposed to the previous one? It's because they are CDF. So newcomers who have no CDF could not beat them because they have some financial muscle. For you, depending on your personal money, for them they're using CDF. And this is what has been seen across the board. So I can quote here Honorable Timothy Bursary, who is the National Treasurer for ODM. It is my student in Strathmore. He came with research. When he came to propose this research, my fellow lecturer said, there is no need of researching on this. And he brought very brilliant views. In fact, the paper has been already been concluded. Research is very clear that we have to find a lot of public participation. The other thing is that CDF and even bursaries should be part of Public Finance Act to be exposed to the rigor of the auditing process like any other fund, because many funds are not run by MPs. MPs don't want it to be under Public Finance Act so that they can have the rigor and actually explain on how, even when you're saying that, for example, talk about Bosibori, why should Bosibori take, but not, for example, another person, isn't it? You mentioned all of them were ladies, isn't it? So even to focus on men, joking, sure, just it's a girls. I'm trying to say there should be a criteria where it's very clear. I like what Babu Owino did in his constituency in Bakassi East. Babu Owino made this public, isn't it? People came for public before we went for Christmas. It was clear who qualified, which numbers were there. The report of the names were there, so I can applaud him. Maybe people need to follow that direction. Maybe it was PR, I don't know, but I'm saying at least we could see that he was doing something like this. So according to me, Fred, why should the right of people depend on who is in power? That's the problem. A right should be a right irrespective of who is in power. And we need all constituencies to perform. For example, go, for example, to other constituencies. Classrooms are there. There's tiles on the carpet, isn't it, on the floor. They have electricity. Go to my constituency in Ugenya. You cannot see, even when they are doing these election halls, they carry lantern lamps in almost all primary schools and secondary schools. How can a secondary school not have electricity? Okay. And I can tell you, Fred, let me just put it clearly. And I like the fact you mentioned governance. Governance are the #1 stamping block for a development in Kenya. And I'm not even trying to mention this to put on the president. Fred, take every county as a startup, isn't it? Every county receives 10 billion on average per year from the national government, isn't it? Now, can you tell me a county, for example, like Kisumu, which has received 240 billion shillings since devolution began as a startup capital? Do you know any company in Kenya with a startup capital of 240 billion? And yet they are generating nothing. They still want more money from national government. MPs have been receiving this money to develop their constituencies. Constituencies are under counties. Why are we not seeing a growth in revenue collection on revenue from the counties? So I'm saying that putting the money, putting Kenyans at the mercy of the leaders we elect is the problem. We compare with the countries like US and Germany. You are right, whether you voted West or you voted East, North or South. So according to me, the number one problem is that we're having incompetent MPs at the moment, and then secondly, they're also corrupt. Yes. And by extension, citizens just get poor services.
And the story is on page 8 of the Daily Nation. Even as schools open for the first term of 2025, an audit report has revealed that millions of bursary cash meant for needy learners could be ending up in the pockets of a few corrupt officers and MPs. Quite unfortunate there. The story is on page 8 of the Daily Nation. Let's take a break now. When we come back, we try and set the agenda for 2025. What should we be thinking of doing? What are the MPs and every other Kenyan thinking that we should be focusing on this year? You're watching Morning Cafe.
This December, learn about safety precautions to take into consideration this season.
If you can remember, if you drive on a motorcycle often, to make sure that you have a helmet, it's key to decreasing the severity of the accidents.
We are passing in a bus from Kakamega to Mombasa. In between, just stand up, stretch your legs, and even when you are seated, keep pumping your feet, keep moving your feet to avoid that long stasis of blood in the veins.
Healthier options for you to maintain a balanced lifestyle amid the holiday hustle.
Eating healthy really doesn't mean that you have to deprive yourself, but we really just have to factor on how to strike a balance. Portion control and moderation are very key. Let us enjoy the season, and at the same time, let us try to watch our health and our well-being.
Happy holidays.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block.
Yes, talking about confusion in priorities. We are still watching Morning Cafe on TV 47. We're getting into the final stretch of this show. I'm still in studio with Daniel Manduku, MP Nyaribari Masaba, Professor Fred Ogola, a governance and economic expert, and James Gakuya, MP Embakasi North. We now want to look at 2025. It's only the second work day. Because yes, it's date 7, but today is just a second working day. Back to school, still students are still making their way back to school. If you look at the dailies today, yes, away from the abduction, there's a lot of politics, and we've been entertained by a lot of political rhetoric since the beginning of the year. People talking about what should happen in 2027. And yes, the Star has that one, Gachagua 2027 poll battle plan. It is 7th of January 2025. The country that should be talking about elections this year is Tanzania, because they have their national elections this year. Uganda, they have their general elections in 2026. None of them is talking about politics right now. But in Kenya, whose election comes 3 years away, we're talking about Gachagua's 2027 plan. It's also in the cartoon on the People Daily, if my director can help me with that. A caricature of the cartoon. A caricature of the former deputy president inside a shoe, talking about 2027. Yes, that's it. It's time to walk the talk. So this is probably the preoccupation right now. Political rhetoric is at its peak, yet there are so many things, even in terms of legislation, reconstitution of the IEBC, delimitation of boundaries, review of boundaries, that no one is talking about. We are talking about 2027. If we were to set the agenda correctly from a parliamentary perspective, what should we be focusing on this year?
I think, Fred, you've said it very well. Agenda number one, without question, should be on the speedy reconstitution of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. And not just the reconstitution of that commission, but also the immediate registration of voters. We are aware that currently there are about 12 to 15 million eligible voters who are yet to register. And it's not possible that even if the IEBC were to be reconstituted tomorrow, they would register within time. So I think in terms of legislation, we need to relook at our laws and allow an automatic and seamless registration once you acquire an ID. If you go to the Central Registration Bureau, where we get our IDs, we have a lot of data there already. We don't need to replicate that. We should change our laws, given that we are now tech-enabled, to allow that if you register as a Kenyan, as a Kenyan at the age of 18, you automatically become a voter. All you can do is maybe be allowed to change your polling station or your constituency or your ward. Agenda number two should be on the economy. Principally, the issue of job creation, industrialization, and empowering our youth, so that what the Kenya Kwanza government promised us, Pesa Mfukoni, can be actualized for the first time. And in my view, agenda number three should be on the strengthening of devolution. In my opinion, Fred, and I say this cognizant of Article 95 of the Constitution, devolution is not working in most counties. If you come to my local home and go to a hospital called Gesusu Hospital, there's no medicine, not even a Panadol. The framers of the Constitution thought that devolution would change the social and economic aspects of our people. It is not. At least it is not doing that in Kisii County. The citizens must wake up and realize that it is time they asked for their rights. We have no medicine in our hospitals. Our staff are demoralized. They're not adequately compensated, and when they get compensated, it is often late. Our road infrastructure is not working. Our ECD classrooms are not working, and our agricultural sector is dead. And so devolution needs to be relooked at. And the only way this can happen is by the common man waking up and standing up to the governors and telling them that here you're getting it wrong. It cannot be that if you go to the constituencies, never mind that we are criticizing the CDF, you only see projects that have been undertaken by the members of parliament through the Constituency Development Fund, CDF. In my constituency, and I'm a member of parliament, and I say this with a lot of pain, not a single project has been initiated by the county government. And it is the same case in most constituencies in this country. It is time that we told the governors to work for our people. And that is what can change the fortunes of the common man or the common woman down in the village. So three agendas: IEBC, economy and devolution.
Okay. IEBC, the economy and devolution, Bwana Gachagua, would those three be the same agenda for you for this year? It is a busy year. And yes, politics also is key, even in ensuring that some of this agenda is actualized. But do you agree that these three are the main ones? Or do you
First and foremost, I would start with aligning and putting our education system into order. One, we have a problem with CBC so far. this teething problem has not come to an end to date. We are struggling even to find facilities where we are going to move our grade 9. And it is so unfortunate that in fact we have been always getting very wrong information from the ministry. Ministry is talking everything is in good order and is correct. But if you move to the ground, it's totally different. You realize that if there are these facilities we are talking about, it is the high time that they are in construction. But should a student wait until when a classroom is complete? The student require to find facilities ready, awaiting him to enroll. This has not been the case. Who can tell us why are we finding that situation when we have a working government, a working ministry? That tells you the ministry is a big joke. A big joke. And in fact, those county education officers must work, and they must work. Because I have a problem in my own constituency, where somebody will just come, start implementing issues. He doesn't want people to concern. He don't even to ask me a question. I have a space place to construct a whole secondary school. Somebody has asked to come and start constructing a single classroom, and he doesn't want to consult. And if you consult, it is like you are creating war. I would say, all of us who are in government, whether administratively or politically, we are there to serve the mass, and that's our business. And we must work in tandem to make sure the services are well delivered to the people. Number two, we have what we call still a clamor in our funding, in our model. In our universities, we have not yet cured that. We need to see our students in classroom and benefiting from the current government. But we don't have to have a scenario when we have students out of the class, we have our tutors out of the class, and this is our... What are we doing as a government? Our duty is to serve the mass. Let us not have this kind of hiccups. We should plan early and make sure that whatever we are planning is in tandem with what people... And let us have what we call a broad-based public participation. Let people understand what you need to do. Let us not be pushing ideas to the people without giving them a chance to respond. Give them, and let them understand you. Let them ask whatever they want to ask. Let them embrace what you are intending to do with their approval. Okay. It should be the other way around. And once I now come from out of there, our health is so important. Let us not joke with our health. Let us streamline things. We have Sashi, up to date, it has still hiccups. Sort those hiccups. Are we expecting angels to come to sort? No, the answer is no. If somebody is not competent in a portfolio, remove him or her. Yes, because Kenyans are there and they are professionals. Give them those who can be able to work. Number three, let us also take concern that even though we would love to say that our country is growing, and we are saying that we have achieved a lot, that is correct. But let us not forget, people are not feeling the growth, because the growth must be felt for the people's pocket. Whether the country, we are saying that the GDP is growing in this particular March, what matters is the feeling of that growth in the pockets of our people. We promise our people that they will have what we call money in their pockets. Mm-hmm. Let us not get lost from our proposals. Let us stick to them. Okay. We are elected on a flat of what we call bottom up. Okay. We would like to see that bottom up coming. We have an element of what we call digital funding, and especially Hasura fund. It is now dead.
Okay, and Gachagua, I'll ask you to hold that thought. We'll be coming back to you. I want to move to Professor Ogolla. Professor, so far no one has mentioned the issue of boundaries review, and I'm not saying that that should be your agenda, but do you agree that there are issues that we're missing out on, that probably even the two members of the National Assembly have not touched on, in as far as what we should be focusing on as a country in 2025?
Yeah, Fred, it's true we have lost focus. The question you ask, why are we discussing too much politics now, but not the issues on the table? Let me just give numbers here. Kamala Harris ran her campaign for 107 days because she was a candidate when Joe Biden was supposed to be a candidate. And he garnered 75 million votes. While if you compare to Kenya, William Ruto campaigned for more than 10 years, isn't it, to get 7.1 million votes. Raila Odinga maybe 25 years to get 6.9 votes, 6.9 million votes. So we are putting too much time on what is not necessary, because if you are a good candidate, you don't need to run a campaign for 5 years. You need to focus on the issues on the table. You heard the cartoon saying when the Bible drops down. Then now we are being told the Bible dropping down actually was the problem. So if we go to this, I'm a parent, I'm a father. I also have my daughters, maybe they are watching me. And in the family, we have priorities. Just like in your family, Gachagua, you have priorities. Can we prioritize national interests like a family interest? For example, if you get your salary, where do you pay the bill first? You pay for housing, isn't it? You send kids to school. Well, for us here, when we receive the money collected from the KRA immediately, where does the first coin goes? Does the first coin goes to ensure everybody has food, everybody has housing, everybody has got health care, everybody has got what they call goods of life, government services. We are not prioritizing on any of those things. How comes that the government has raised taxes, have borrowed more with nothing to show, Fred? During Kibaki time and Uhuru time, at least we have Thika Highway, we have Nairobi Expressway, we have the SGR, isn't it? Tell me one single project Kenya Kwanza is doing that requires all this money they're collecting and taxing people from, and all the borrowings they're having. Secondly, Fred, even if you leave alone the issue of IBC and the rest, do you know Kenyans don't care about those boundaries? Because we do elections, we spend money on boundaries review, we end up with the wrong leaders. Then they end up being hungry, they end up being more taxed. Kenyans would care about putting food on the table and to prioritize on their well-being. For example, Fred, can you imagine, I hear him, well, I'm an economist, when you hear about the economic growth, isn't it? And I've always told you that the economic growth is not the issue, is how comes doctors are on strike? How come teachers are on strike? Lecturers are on strike. Security agencies are receiving low salary. I can tell you the average salary for a constable in Kenya is 25,465. The one for cadets in military is 24,520. Now, when people earn such salaries, then again, from every constable, you're taking 2,000 for house levy, which they don't see the housing. Security guards in Kenya earn an average of 17,000 security guards. They take 1,000 shillings each from them to build a house. They don't know where it's being built, where it's going. So the government should not focus on this. The government ensure that money circulates in the economy by ensuring that doctors are not fighting on the street. They're earning their salaries. Teachers, lecturers, all the civil servants are earning peanuts while they are being overtaxed, Fred. The pending bills we are talking about, the president said last year that he's not paying pending bills until he gives an audit report in October 2024, isn't it? First of all, I've not seen that audit report on whether the pending bills were legitimate or not. Secondly, they have not been paid. Now, when there's no money circulating in the economy, what works, Fred? Let me give an example from my own lifestyle. My mother educated us 11 children using changa. Who are the best people who are buying? Her customers were teachers in her like primary school. I can name those schools, but name need schools around. If they have no salary, how would they buy changa for my mother? So money is not circulating. You go to electronics, people who sell electronics, sell Mutumba clothes, Mutumba shoes. People selling, any trader in Kenya, money is not moving in. Most money just needs to go. So everybody is holding money because if someone pays you, you don't pay somebody because you have not been paid. So you're worried about keeping the money to use for your own personal thing, but not paying the other person. When money does not move like that, teachers don't get their salaries, lecturers don't get, doctors don't get. So we are having a problem with the economy. And I can tell you, if you ask Kenyans, the number one thing they want to address is not IBC. The number thing they want to address is the economy. And if the economy should be addressed, what are the issues in the economy? The issue is that we are being overtaxed. You should do something about that. Thirdly, salary delays is the order of the day. People are not being paid. I was home for Christmas. No one was having a Christmas tree, I told you. Nobody ate chapatis like I used to see chapatis moving around. I didn't see kids eating sweets. People were not actually going to dance discos the way they had. What I'm seeing is that there was no fun, meaning that the money is not moving. And as far as I'm concerned, where does Kenyan money go? We need to understand from our MPs who are sitting side by side, me here, where does the Kenyan money go? They do oversight. Do they know where the 7.2 trillion shillings borrowed by the current administration was taken? Do they know how much the money collected so far, between 2.7 trillion to 2.5 trillion, for the last 2 years? Where has that money gone to? Which mega project is happening? But what we're seeing is that they are driving better cars in the government. They are having better housing. People who used to live in Embakasi now lives in Rwanda. People who used to live, for example, in Kasarani are now living in Muthaiga. The guys of Ichungwas are having better houses. Now they have 3 residential homes, isn't it? While a Kenyan has no food on the table. So as far as I'm concerned, Kenyans are very hungry, they are very angry, but they know what they want. Why don't we now call for a national convention, Fred, according to me, so that we can ask the president, what is the vision you have for this country? And let me end by saying this.
His manifesto is out there. Why
no,
do you need him to
no, there is no.
Again?
The manifesto is not. We don't know who stole Kenya Kwanza's manifesto. That person should return it back to them because they must have stolen the manifesto. But let me end, Fred, by saying this. Ours in Kilifi, we launched what is called alternative leadership in all cadres, not just political leadership. But what Kenya needs is an alternative leadership. Before we have alternative leadership, no one will listen to this government, will not listen to Kenya. For example, Raila Odinga with the Azimio, they are in the government, which is the alternative leadership. The alternative leadership I'm talking about is not about recycling the people who are talking about prehistory. I don't know when Kenyatta was president, when I was in Moi's government. We want fresh leadership. That's why I'm calling upon young people. Okay. Let us form an alternative leadership which is not recycled. Look at now Kagwe being proposed to cabinet. Where was Kagwe before? He was another government before. We are bringing people in government who have achieved everything and they have nothing to achieve. Yet they have no legacy to build.
We still need to discuss politics because I can see even the Kenya Kwanza administration and many people in government, there seems to be a preoccupation with what Gachagua is doing. Even the current Deputy President, Professor Kithure Kindiki, now is being seen addressing Rigathi Gachagua. At every podium that the president goes to, all speakers want to address the former Deputy President. And this was a purely Kenya Kwanza issue. The disagreements were within Kenya Kwanza administration. But now it would appear that that is a main political agenda of 2025. As we come to the close of this show, as you make your final comments, even politically, what should be the discussion right now? Should it just be around Rigathi Gachagua?
Fred, I don't want to glorify the former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua in any way, but listening to him and looking at the way he has gone bare knuckles, he's someone who cannot be ignored. And I said it here before that by hounding him out of the office, we have elevated his stature. In fact, people in my constituency didn't know Rigathi Gachagua before the impeachment. Now they know of him. And so whatever people say or think, the former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua is a key factor in not just Mount Kenya, but in many areas. And come 2027, he will give a political direction that will make many of our colleagues casualties in the National Assembly. I have had occasion to see how my colleagues, some of my colleagues are jeered in public functions on account of having voted to impeach the former Deputy President. And so in a way, he has been able to galvanize his supporters and tell those who impeached him or labeled those who impeached him as sellouts. And this theory is gaining currency, especially in the areas around Mount Kenya. And so we cannot ignore him. But having said that, I think a day in politics is a long time. We still have about 2.5 years to the next elections, and anything could happen in between. There may be realignments, there may be other people joining him. But I think as it stands today, the former deputy president is a man to watch in as far as politics of Mount Kenya is concerned.
So at least in 2025, we cannot ignore him.
No, you see, he has a lot of time too. So every day he wakes up, he just does politics, you know. And you media people seem to like covering him. And when he goes to functions, he's received like a hero. And that you can't take away from him, and that is a fact.
Okay. Bwana Gakuya, in as far as politics is concerned, what should we be focusing on beyond Rigathi Gachagua?
I think what I would propose is that the state should totally ignore side shows and concentrate in service delivery. You are elected to perform, and that's why you are given a torch so that you can deliver what you promised them. And I think the midway to the point we are, I would not say that, in fact, William Ruto's government has not done anything. But as much as it has scored something, it has a lot to do. And therefore, issues to do with petty issues like abductions, petty issues like Gachagua issues. Gachagua has his democratic right, has his constitutional right, and William should also note that, in fact, he campaigned this country for 5 consecutive years. Nobody stopped him. And therefore, he must leave those who want to do campaign to campaign, but he cannot lose the focus. His focus is to concentrate with making sure the vessel is on the path, making sure that the delivery is being achieved. And I think that's where we should be. William should not focus on 2027. He must forget it in totality. His whole crew should forget about it. Concentrate the 2 years first. Do the best you could to give service delivery. Ignore side shows, politics, and concentrate with service delivery. And if we are going to go that path, William can redeem himself. His government can be redeemed. Avoid also that element of making sure that you must keep recycling. Appointing a cabinet today, before 5 months, you sack them out, you bring another kind of cycle. This is not helping anything. And let me tell you, it is not the high time he must look for keeping to his path of 2027. Kenyans will give you a space if you serve him and you serve them prudently. So concentrate with serving Kenyans. Ignore those other side issues and concentrate. Forget about Gachagua every day. Ignore him. Let Gachagua enjoy his political constitutional space, because democratically, Gachagua has his democratic right. That is what I would say.
Okay.
In the morning.
Yet politicians continuously are using the presidential platform to talk about President William Ruto's prospects of re-election come 2027, right in front of the president.
I think the president needs to shift the arena from the political arena to the economic, or if you like, the citizens' arena. Why the president goes to sit up in a funeral where his cabinet, like Natembeya said, are giving pledges to him in a funeral to do something for Kenyans, as if they never meet in the cabinet. The president should be seen in the Oval Office, for example, in the State House office, meeting his ministers, executing it, giving executive orders, not on top of the vehicle, not on a funeral. In the funeral, go to consult people and stop it. If I would be a president for 1 minute, there will be no state speeches in a funeral. It should be only condolences. And if you're my minister and you make speeches about government issues of all those promises and threatening abductions, you'll be out of the government, because you're out of order. In a funeral, all people are mourners. In church, all of us are worshippers. Talk about Jesus Christ and the 12 apostles. If you have nothing else to talk about, go there, worship, and walk out. We used to worship Kibaki. I was Kibaki's economic advisor. Kibaki used to come to Consolata here. He used to come, sit there, pray, and walk away. No speeches. Here in Kenya, every politicians, after they go to church, they are the main preachers. Most of the things you report, you never report about what the pastor talked about in church. You report what was said by the politicians. You go to a funeral, the most important eulogy read about that person by the family who knows them are never published. But people who don't even know that person are the ones speaking, and they're the ones appearing on papers. According to me, we should give funeral be funeral, church be church. And yet, even those donations I'm talking about, when you give a donation to church, why must we mention? The church is very clear. What the left gives, the right should not know. So as far as I'm concerned, the issue the French will be focusing now, for example, I disagree a little bit that Gachagua might define the political arena. The person who has shifted the political arena is Raila Odinga's AU bid, because for now, that should be a very big focus, because just in 1 month's time, or so, we shall know where the fate falls. And if Raila Odinga goes to AU, the political landscape will change forever. What if he doesn't go? It will also take another turn forever. So according to me, it's good for Raila to go to AU for political transformation of Kenya, because that's why I'm talking about the issue of those who have been there prehistory. They need now to go and retire, for example, in AU. The president should just prepare, for example, how to deliver to Kenyans. Let us stop discussing about 9 issues. Gachagua was a problem, he's no longer more. And I can tell you, Fred, what does power mean? Power means to have the potential to do something. Once you have used it, it's gone. Ruto had the power to sack Gachagua. He used it. He should know that he has no powers over him anymore. Okay. By the time Gachagua is in office, he had powers over him. Now he has no powers over him. Okay. So if our power is to insult you, once I insult you, I lose that power. Power should never be used. And I can tell the president, stop too much rhetorics. Choose the one thing in 2025. What is the one thing that if you do, you will get legitimacy to do the next second thing. But if you continue talking about everything and doing nothing, then you'll only face what is called legitimacy challenges, and no one will listen.
Asante sana, Professor Fred Ogola, governance and economic expert. And by the way, you've just mentioned Raila Odinga. Today, Raila Odinga, the candidate for the AUC chairman's position, turns 80. So happy birthday to the former Prime Minister.
Happy birthday to Baba. Happy birthday. Friends, so the wisdom is there. Happy birthday to Baba.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Daniel Manduku, MP Nyaribari Masaba, and James Gakuya, MP Embakasi North, for your very well considered opinions on the matters we've discussed. This just being the second show of Morning Cafe this year, 2025. So much to look forward to. And yes, we've been trying to see what should we be focusing on as a country, despite what is prevailing. After the break, we'll be having a discussion on setting financial goals. My colleague Arno Dida will be hosting Kahoro Ngodho, a financial planning expert, also managing partner at Wega Insurance Agencies. You don't want to miss that conversation. What should you do different as far as your finances are concerned this new year? My name is Fred Ndimuli. Have a lovely day.